Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a preview for the 2020 RBC Heritage. Before we get in the video, I'd like to remind you guys that you can watch us in a faster speed. Go ahead, if you're on desktop, hover over the screen somewhere. You're going to see a gear icon somewhere down here. Drill down on that. I prefer 1.5. You guys can figure it out to whatever you're comfortable with. On mobile, top right corner, you're going to see three dots that make kind of a vertical line. I mean, they do make a vertical line. Drill down on that, you'll find playback speed, and again, 1.5 is my recommendation. You can also find timestamps in the description to get to whatever part of the video that you find most interesting. That way it saves you time. That's all I'm trying to do here is help you guys save some time. What do I talk about in these preview videos? Well, usually go over the course information, and then follow that up with course history. Most likely put results in there as well, just to give you kind of some kind of semblance. That's the word? Is that a word? Some idea of what the score is going to be. And then, you know, depending on if it's a low scoring tournament or a high scoring tournament, that's where we can determine, you know, are we looking for birdie or better golfers? Are we looking for bogey avoidance golfers? That kind of thing. That's where we'll find the results. And then we can also see that in course history as well. We'll see who the course horses are. We'll talk about recent form, although there really isn't recent form. We have one tournament. You know, obviously we had the Charles Schwab Challenge last week, but it's still enough to have recent form. So we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll go over the 2019 DK page. That way you guys can kind of see what kind of, you know, we'll go over the Pete Dye stats. We'll go over the grass stats for the 2019, the results of the 2019 tournament, as well as the swing stats. And of course, grass stats and swing stats. That will be more of a 2020 DK review or a preview, seeing, trying to find the golfers that might correlate with the 2019 results. Those usually don't go hand in hand, but we can get kind of an idea of what to kind of look forward to, you know, when we put together lineups. So that being said, let's go ahead and pull up the course information, which is going to look a little different. I'm not going to create a graphic for it. We'll just go to the GCSAA website, and they always have a tournament fact sheet. So again, you can find this at gcsaa.com, I think, or .org. I don't really remember. I closed it. Yeah, .org, sorry. And you can find any tournament here. You just scroll to the bottom of the website. You'll find the tournament fact sheets there. This way you guys can see that I'm not making this stuff up. You know, it's right here. This is what you'll also see. So it's a par 71, nearly 7,100 yards. Now, the PGA always sets up tournaments shorter and longer every day. They're not really trying to get to 7,100 every single tournament. They want to kind of fluctuate. No, not so much fluctuate. They want to give a different look basically every day of the tournament. So it's going to be around 7,100 yards, which is it's not a very, you know, it's not a very long golf course. It's a very short golf course compared to other par 71s. Take into account, I think last week was a par 70 at 7,200 yards. So you can kind of see the difference. The thing with RBC Heritage, which you're going to hear basically anyone that's creating content for DFS golf, is that this is a tree-lined golf course. So accuracy is going to be imperative, yada, yada, yada. It is true, but put it this way. You're not going to be able to cut a lot of these holes. Like, you're not going to be able to hit a shortcut, you know, hitting it over the trees. I know we've all done that at our home courses. There are some dog legs that we can just fire right over. Here, there really isn't any holes that I can think of that I can remember where if you bomb it and go awry, you know, if you hit it way to the left or way to the right, that you'll be saved by hitting into the other hole. I just don't, that doesn't happen at this course. You're basically going to be hitting on a pine straw if you do hit it in the woods, or in the trees, I should say. So it's going to be imperative to hit a ball in play. One thing I want to get to is when we go down to the additional notes, we can look at something like this. Now, nearly an acre of turf has been added by reducing the size of beds and waste areas. So before you would get to the trees, there used to be like really sandy areas that were quote unquote waste areas. Those have kind of been eliminated. So they've basically widened the fairways, and then extended the rough out. So this tight golf course isn't as tight as once before. I don't have the stats to see how wide the average fairway is at this golf course, but you can bet that it's going to be a little bit more forgiving this year round than past years. So yes, driving accuracy is going to be important, but also take into mind a lot of golfers are not going to be hitting driver off of tees. So you're going to want to find the stat that doesn't just incorporate drivers. You want to find the stat that incorporates all of driving accuracy. And I mean, obviously, the lower the club goes, the more accurate these golfers are going to be. That's not to say that some of these golfers might not risk trying to hit like a controlled shaped shot around a dog leg. You know, we don't know exactly how these golfers are going to play this golf course, but you do want to keep in mind that it is more of an accuracy course. You see a lot of shorter hitters win this course, like a Matt Kuchar, a CT Pan from last year, Siwoo Kim, who can hit it pretty decent. He's not a short hitter by any means. He's basically middle of the pack. Brandon Grace won this tournament. Kevin Kisner's won this tournament. They're not, upper echelon of drivers. So I wouldn't consider any of those guys top 20% in driving distance. So it is like everyone is available this week. And that's obviously what you're going to hear most weeks, or for most content creators when it comes to the RBC Heritage. They're going to say that, yeah, this opens up, this type of course opens up the playing field to just about anybody. Are the Bombers going to play smart and play conservative? Are they going to play a little risky? They still have the opportunity to hit the par 5s and 2. Much easier than, say, a shorter hitter. So you always want to keep that in mind. We have 3 par 5s, I believe. We might have 4 par 5s. I don't see it on here. Shoot, I should have looked that up. But I would say look up the scorecard for this golf course and see if there are 4 par 5s. If there are 4 par 5s, definitely consider that. Here, let me just pull it up, because I don't like, you're coming here to look, you're here to listen to what I have to, what I have to say about it. Let me give you that information. Not make you guys work for it. I am checking the leaderboard on the 2019, the 2019 leaderboard. Okay, so there's only 3 par 5s. Okay. So there are only 3 par 5s, not 4. Sorry for that little delay, but figured we get that out of the way, make sure it's correct. Let's see. So the other additional note is, since we're playing in June, we do not have POA greens. We have Bermuda greens. And it will be, let's see, playing surfaces will be Bermuda as opposed to POA, perennial, rye, fair. Usually ryegrass is a very universal grass that you can basically overseed anywhere. It grows in any conditions. Rye is very, very tough. And POA obviously is, I wouldn't say so much a tough grass, but it's really easy to spread, and it kind of spreads itself. Like, it's a really fast growing grass. So that's why they would use POA as opposed to like bent or rye on the greens. You wouldn't really want to use rye on the greens. But here, let's go over this really quick. So this is information I've never given you guys before in the tournament, and these previews. Is average green size 3,700. I believe that's second smallest on PGA Tour. I think Pebble Beach is the smallest. I'm not positive with average tee sizes. I'm sorry, I should figure that one out before we're getting on here. Acres of fairway 22. You guys can look at this. Number of bunkers that might be prevalent. If someone's kind of not the greatest out of bunkers, comparing this to the average would be ideal. Number of water hazards 17. How many holes is water in play? All 18 of them. So we have 18 holes of water in play. I would say you know, try to avoid the golfers that make big scores, especially those that are kind of awry off the tee. Other than that, you can, I mean, last week the greens were rolling at 0.100, which is a little bit shorter than 0.115. So these greens are going to be a little slower, I believe, than at, it was 110, I believe. So either way, they're going to be a little bit slower than the Charles Schwab Challenge. I don't think it really matters that much, to be quite honest. We're still going to want to look at Bermuda grass golfers. And then the other thing, the big thing, Architect, Pete Dye. You're going to hear this from a lot of guys. I feel like too much emphasis is used, like it's too much of a general comment that most people make, like Pete Dye messes with your sight lines. Do you really think these pros are going to be messed up by like because you're still going to have target golf? So off of the tee, sight lines, not that big of a deal. To the green sight lines, not that big of a deal. It's when you get on the green, he makes like how he has greens sculpted with different things in the background. That's where it gets difficult to read the greens. The sight lines on the greens are the most difficult part when it comes to Pete Dye golf courses. So all the little stat nerds out there that think they know what Pete Dye brings to the table, please, never mind. I was gonna say take what they say with a grain of salt, because they don't know. They are repeating things they've heard before. I've played on Pete Dye golf courses. Putting is the most difficult thing. There's no, like, if my tee shot's going this way and the fairway like cuts that way, so my tee is going this way and the fairway is going that way, I know what distance I need to land the ball. These sight lines aren't going to mess with me. It's one of those things that I get a little perturbed listening to, because I'll leave it at that. All right, let's go ahead, get into the spreadsheet. We're going to look at the results. What I was looking at prior to getting on and making this video is 8 under seems to be kind of the low point, or I should say the score of basically the score we want most of our golfers to get to, because 8 under represents top 10. It looks like 2014, 2013, and 2016. 8 under, is like top 5 basically. But overall, on average, it looks like 8 under is going to get you nearly around top 10 finishing spots, and that's what we're kind of looking at. So this is going to be a little bit tougher golf course. Birdies aren't going to be easy to come by. Probably put a little bit more emphasis on bogey avoidance as opposed to birdie or better. Other than that, I mean, we can look, give like a quick look. One other thing to note, this tournament usually follows the Masters. So we really don't have a lot of golfers here, like a lot of elite golfers, a lot of upper echelon golfers. And since it's one of those golf courses that kind of favors a shorter hitter, you don't see a lot of long hitters at this golf course. So this is going to be really interesting. I mean, like Bryson in 2018 wasn't getting to his, Hulk form yet, basically. But he still was hitting the ball far. Same with Luke List. Luke List is a very far long ball hitter. Patrick Cantlay is a long ball hitter. There's Cantlay up here as well, but we don't really see anyone else in the top 10 that's really considered a long ball hitter. We can look at the 2019 DK page and see where like tee to green stats, how those end up doing. But like Wesley Bryan, not a very far hitter. Satoshi Kodaira, not a very far hitter. CT Pan, not a far hitter. Brendan Grace, not a very far hitter. Jim Furyk, not a far hitter. Luke Donald, like this was Luke Donald's like staple, the golf course that he, I don't remember how many top 2 finishes he had. Three top 2 finishes, and really like 4 top 3 finishes. Not a very, long ball hitter. So definitely we can see like, for the most part, shorter hitters have won this tournament. But You got to look at the whole picture. We're trying to find 6 golfers to populate our lineup with. Don't get hung up on when people say short ball hitters. Yes, you do want some in your lineup, but don't be afraid to find, golfers that hit the ball far. So keep that in mind and take it with a grain of salt. Let's see here. Let's go ahead, look at the course history. Let me go ahead and sort it. Well, it's already sorted by the golfers in the field. The P here under 2020 just means they're playing. That's what the P stands for, is playing. Average, we can see a bunch of golfers here at the top that have only played once or twice. Let's go ahead. Go ahead, screenshot this, pause it, all that good stuff. Do what you need to do to see this, or to make it comfortable for you, I guess. But if we take out, golfers who've only played this once, we see Scott Piercy at the top here. He's played it twice, a 3rd place and a 16th place. He isn't a very long ball hitter, or a very long hitter, I should say. So maybe it'd be worth playing someone like him. His results from last week, I don't care for. I'm also not going to talk about all of these golfers. So again, pause the video, screenshot it if you want it, have this information. But as you can see, Piercy, Kuchar, Grace, Poulter, Donald, Brian, Spieth, not DJ. DJ's a long ball hitter. CT Pan, Shane Lowry's kind of a long ball hitter. Grillo, Streelman. Simpson can hit the ball far. Let's just call it as what it is. Like, he does on a driver, he hits it around 300 yards. That's far enough. But Moore, Kisner. Here, let me go ahead and just. I don't know about Merritt. Spieth he can hit the ball out there quite a bit. So I have 13 golfers highlighted, and this is like top 20. So 13 out of the 20 don't hit the ball very far. And I know I don't have stats next to these guys to show you that they don't. This is just from my personal memory. But I know they don't hit the ball that far. So take that for what it's worth. When people do say target golfers that don't hit the ball that far, you could look at something like this and say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I'll take that in mind. One golfer that I really like when I look at this is if I take out the 61 from Brandon Grace last year, 6.33, pretty fantastic. Why do I take the 61 out? Well, last week, he played some really good golf. And I think a little bit of this delay must have, this suspension in play must have helped him out quite a bit. You could say the same thing about Jordan Spieth, but Jordan was the same old Jordan. He got hot with this putter, but when things started going on in his head, he started to falter. And this is just, to me, a mental golfer gets in his head. If he does not hit the driver straight, I don't see him winning this golf tournament. Again, he's going to have to show me that he can win a tournament before I roster him. I said that last week and I rostered nearly 25% of them, but that's because the bucket system basically pushed me onto him. If it wasn't him, I'd have to leave $2,000 on the table. So I got to Jordan Spieth quite a bit. Yeah, I don't have anything. Well, we could look at, even Luke Donald. We take away his missed cut. He ties Scott Piercy as one of the low guys with course history. Take Jordan Spieth and take that out. He's like the 3rd or 4th guy with course history here. Can't really do it with anyone else. I could take a 55 away from Streelman, take a 66 away from Webb Simpson, and the stats are good. It's just going to depend on their price, really, whether or not you want to play them. Okay, so that's course history. Let's go ahead and get into the 2019 DK page. So I have this sorted by... Here, let me go ahead and throw up the filter and then sort it again if it's not. See if I have any other filters on here by accident. Okay. All right. So I have this sorted, you know, 1st to 20th basically. And you can see the salary of the golfers up at top. A lot of 6K range golfers, 7K, 1, 9, 7, basically 2 10K guys, and the rest of them just it's 6K and 7K golfers. But again, this is after the Masters. This is with a less than stellar field. You know, we had quite a bit of, you know, if we take a look top to bottom, we had Dustin Johnson. I mean, Francesco Molinari was 11-3. He was pretty hot. This is after his 2nd place finish at the Masters, or 3rd place finish. Obviously, he gagged that one away, but, you know, he was coming in with really good form, missed the cut. Xander Schauffele, 10-9. I remember rostering him last year. He almost missed the cut. He was, I want to say he made the cut on the number, but his driver was not, I mean, he couldn't hit anything straight. And when you needed him to score, he wasn't scoring. Bryson missed the cut last year. But then you had Kuchar and Cantlay, you know, 22 to 1 odds. Value pretty decent. Their course history pretty good. The recent form coming in here really good. Both of them the week before had top 20 finishes, and I suppose we should look at that when we get back to the you know, sorting it by result. Yeah, like Furyk was 9,400, Spieth was 9,500. You're getting him for 8,700 this year, which is to me a pretty decent value. I guess just looking top to bottom, we had 5 golfers inside the top 20, you know, of salary. So take that for what it's worth. Maybe not invest as much in the top 20, but again, we have a star-studded field this week yet again, which we've never seen at this tournament before. So take it with a grain of salt. You know, like really difficult to figure that out. Another thing we can look at is tee times, just to see, you know, did morning stack pay off? Did the afternoon stack pay off? It was pretty even if you just take a quick glance. Same with teeing off on whatever hole. It's pretty even. You had just as many 10s as you do 1s. So we're not going to look at any more of this information. I mean, like value is not a huge thing in my opinion. I don't really look at, I mean, value is just their fantasy points per game divided by their salary times 100. You know, that gets you, you know, basically just points per game divided into there, you know, to see if they reach value. And I mean, you can look at the math really quick and figure it out. Let's go ahead and hide this information. We can go ahead and top down course history. We're not going to talk about it in depth. Go ahead, screenshot it, pause the video, look at the golfers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 golfers who finished inside the top 20 that were top 20 in course history. So again, from, you know, basically row 2 down to row 21, that is your top 20 golfer in any of these stats that I'm going to be pulling up. So you can see top 20 course history. Again, we only had 5 golfers that made the top 20. Go ahead and do recent form. Again, we're not going to have recent form this week, so not something to really look at. But top 20 recent form, we had 5 golfers inside the top 20. We can go to last year's results, and again, we have 5 golfers that finished inside the top 20. And really, we had 4 golfers that finished inside the top 10. So we could find 4 golfers that, you know, finished inside the top 20 last year at this tournament and try to force them into our lineups. The week before doesn't really, I mean, it's 5 golfers. It looks like 5 golfers throughout all of these. And really, you can make whatever correlation you want. Like if we look at course history, you know, you have a last week right here. You know, they kind of go hand in hand together, and like you can find some of the recent forms go hand in hand. So there's like 4 golfers with last year top 20s and last week top 20s who are in the top 20 course history that finish top 10. Is that what I'm looking at right now? I'm sorry. I kind of did this without really fully looking, but yeah, top 20 except for Dustin. So like something to look at. Let's go ahead and look at the overall PTI stats. So this was the overall average of golfers that have played PTI. I shouldn't say that. That's the wrong way. This is the golfer's individual average at PTI events. Matt Kuchar, He had a 25.84 average finishing position at a Pete Dye golf course. He was the top Pete Dye specialist here last year. Finished second. Cantlay finished third. He was the second top. So like it does play quite a, like, to me it's important. But as you can see with the rest of these guys, like the results just aren't that great. We have 4 golfers that finished inside the top 20 at this tournament last year that were in the top 20 of the Pete Dye stat. So we can't really get too carried away with this. I mean, I can scroll down just a little bit to see if there's anything else. You know, we find 2 more golfers and that's it. So really, you know, Pete Dye is something I think we need to look at to find an edge. Maybe it's to look at, you know, the top priced guys and determine which one we want to play. But, you know, maybe it's not as important as we once thought. Bermuda stats. So last year, if I read that tournament stat correct, or that tournament fact sheet correctly, it was not Bermuda. So although I had Bermuda up here, it wasn't actually Bermuda. So that's something to take into consideration, because I would have had the wrong stat up here. But we did have 5 golfers finish inside the top 20 for overall Bermuda stats for this tournament. And again, that's top 20 Bermuda stats in the field. 5 of them finished inside the top 20 for the tournament. 2019 Bermuda stats. Again, we have 5 golfers up there once again. Top 10 Pete Dye percentage. So this is the percentage that they finish inside the top 10 at Pete Dye golf courses. Only 4 golfers finished, you know, inside the top 20 of this stat. Only 4 golfers finished inside the top 20 at the tournament. And then we can do the same thing with Bermuda stats. And again, like, we don't have a lot, 5, but we do have 2 of the golfers here, second and third place, that you would want in your lineup. So it looks like grass stats and Pete Dye stats probably not as important. We do want to find probably like 3 or 4 golfers with good stats for Bermuda and Pete Dye, and kind of go with that. Let's go ahead and kind of cruise through the I'm just gonna go ahead and hide all of this. So we'll go ahead and go through the swing stats, as I like to call them. And last year, if you've been with me in the last video, and actually a couple of the other videos prior to the pandemic, last year I did it by ranking. So that's what these numbers indicate, and it was the PGA rank. So although this says 2, Byung-Hun An was the #1 golfer last year off of the tee coming into this tournament. So definitely think of that when you look at this. This is essentially the top 20. These are the top 20 golfers in off the tee. Although the number doesn't indicate that. Again, this is their PGA rank coming into this tournament. So off the tee, we find 4 golfers that finished inside the top 20. And, you know, like your biggest hitters, DJ, I'd say Cantlay would be up there, List, Schauffele. It's funny seeing Jim Furyk up there. Like, he must have been placing the ball in the fairway quite a bit leading up to this tournament. Sung Jae can hit the ball pretty decent. Webb Simpson. Really, none of these guys really stand out when it comes to like hitting the ball really far. Tee to green stats. As we look at this, we only had 4 golfers that finished inside the top 20. Looking at tee to green. Approach. 4 golfers yet again. Are we seeing the same golfers over and over? Cantlay and Kuchar, right? I mean, Cantlay and or Kuchar. There we go. So yeah, it's not going to be a mix. Like, we're probably going to want to find 2 or 3 golfers that, you know, kind of hit these stats pretty decent. Poulter, Simpson, Nah, Merritt, and Zach Johnson are golfers we have not yet seen when we sort through these things. So, or around the green, seemed pretty important. That's crazy. I just realized how I did the stats last year. So stupid. Putting really didn't matter. Proximity really didn't matter. Green and reg. 5 golfers again. Kuchar, Piercy and Cantlay. We've seen Kuchar and Cantlay, so maybe we're trying to find Kuchar and Cantlay again. So maybe we're trying to find, you know, the elite golfers in this field, which obviously we're gonna have a bunch this year. So it might be a little bit more difficult to figure out. But yeah, that's the 2019 DK breakdown, basically. Let's go ahead and look at the 2020 DK page. I do have this sorted because I have alternate placeholders. So when you see this, don't be concerned. I am hiding a couple stats that just I don't have filled out. So starting hole and tee time, obviously I don't have those yet. PJ hasn't given it to us. I have some hidden fields in here just because these are things I haven't yet figured out. So I'll be working on those like I did in the review of the last tournament, or the lineup construction video of the last tournament. But yeah, you can go and look at those things to kind of get an idea of what those are. But let's go ahead and talk about this. So we already went through course history, already talked about it. Oh, you know what? I didn't even talk about recent form. Where was recent form when it was supposed to be after course history? It's been a while. Sure, let's go ahead and look at that. So we'll do course history, or we'll do recent form. And really, like, when you look at this column F, this would indicate the last 7 weeks heading into this tournament. 2019, they did not have decent recent form, and we had a few top 20 finishes at the Masters. Go to 2018, we're kind of seeing the same thing, but now we have 2 golfers that had pretty decent recent form heading into here, and only 1 golfer top 20 at the Masters. 2017, we have nobody that was top 20 at the Masters. And really, again, recent form wasn't that great. Recent form in 2016 wasn't good, and no top finishers at the Masters. And as you can see, so recent form for a lot of these golfers at the top 10 just were not good. And a good indication of that, or a good explanation, I should say, of that, is because this followed the Masters. And the Masters is a tough grind. It's definitely for either golfers that have never golfed the Masters before. It's the first time they may have played it. They may have had some bad breaks that led to, you know, grinding moments. So seeing golfers come in here with like poor, very recent form, not a huge deal. So maybe the golfers at the Charles Schwab Challenge, we don't have to really worry about. Again, we're going to a different grass surface, a different course layout, although Colonial is kind of a little tree lined. I would say like it's really difficult. I don't even know if I want to make a stand on this, because as a golfer myself, if I hadn't golfed in 3 months, you know, competitive play, that first tournament might be a little rusty for me, regardless of how well I was hitting on the driving range, because a lot of golf is just trusting your instinct. And if you haven't played a lot of tournament golf, once you get there, and there's a swing thought that you've been working on, and you try, like you go and you play, and you just abandon it, like on the first few holes. Like, these pros are just like us, just obviously a bit more advanced, but that psychological thing still carries with every one of them, like it does with us. So if you're not comfortable with a swing change, or with you know, a little tweak to your golf swing, you might not commit to that throughout the entire tournament. You might feel apprehensive to, you know, to try it until you get towards the end of it and you're like, I'm just gonna whatever, let's just full commit, and then it works, you know, and then people figure it out. So I don't know, these guys that missed the cut last week, they'll have the opportunity to come back to this tournament, or to come to this tournament with a little bit of motivation. And then also, if they did kind of go down that route where they weren't committing to their golf swing, maybe they'll go into this tournament going, you know what, I'm just full committing this entire round, this entire tournament, and perhaps it works for them. You know, like that's golf. That's the variance that people hate listening to, or are told that you have to watch out for. So, yeah, let's go ahead. So let's go back to the 2020 DK page. and this time stay on it and go through it. So recent form, if we look at it, we have a bunch of good recent form, and this is dating back, you know, it'd be the last 7 weeks. So if I look at the 2020, it's taking into account the Waste Management Open, which was played in February. I would go ahead and say, you know, from here back really doesn't matter. But when we looked at the Charles Schwab Challenge, some of the golfers that had good recent form, you know, throughout the last, you know, before play was stopped, did well at the tournament. So I think maybe it's worth looking at. So recent form, you know, I'm pretty sure Mackenzie Hughes played. This too can't be right. Oh, what the heck? Oh. All right. Bear with me. I understand what happened. So, oh, this is unfortunate. Okay. So what happened was, when I copied this over, I usually have text that still shows like cut, and when that happens, and I copy and paste just the values over, it gets a little confused as to what exactly. Okay, so the cut, when it says cut, so obviously Mackenzie Hughes had 4 cuts. Take those out, the only number that was showing was a 2. That's why it showed 2. So yeah, let's clean this up because that was gross. So you can see how those formulas are written, in case you were ever wondering. And recent form is going to be a little different now. So now we'll go ahead, copy paste, just values only. That gets rid of the formula that was in there. We can go ahead and remove that, but then just keep the top one. Okay, so let's go ahead and filter that again. Now it's only you only have to worry about that with recent form, because that wouldn't have been with course history or any of the other pieces of information. So yeah, there we go. This looks a little bit better. So Tyrrell Hatton obviously has a win earlier this year. So does Daniel Berger. Rory had all those top 5s. Bryson was doing well. So like and Patrick Reed has a win. I think Xander has a 2nd place, or a couple of them. But yeah, you can see recent form here. I mean, it might be worth playing 1 or 2 of these guys, but only staying to 1 or 2. But yeah, I'm gonna scroll a little bit. You guys can pause it and take a look. I'm not gonna talk about any of these golfers. We're not gonna go over last week stats. Although, I mean, we'll do that in the lineup construction video. So definitely pay attention to that when it comes out. Let's go ahead and hide this and look at our die events. So our Pete die events for these guys. I didn't have this in the 2019 spreadsheet, but I knew this was important for this year, and that's one of the things I changed, is letting you guys know how many events these guys have golfed that are Pete die events, and same with Bermuda events. These guys here at the top have only played once. Scotty Scheffler, a 3rd place finish. I think this was at the American Express, where there's the PGA West golf course is a Pete die golf course, and they only play there twice if you were to make the cut. So every golfer plays there at least once, and if you make the cut, you play there Sunday once again. So you only played a Pete die event. You only play 2 rounds at that event, where most of these rounds are 4 rounds at a Pete die golf course. So obviously take that into consideration. But if we take away all the golfers that only have 1 event under the belt, we're going to get to a little bit like a better sample size. So Rory leads the way, 22.09 is his average finishing position. And again, I'm not going to talk about all these, but you can take a look at some of these golfers. Like Grace is down here. You can see some lower price guys. Justin Thomas is down here. Rahm, Sergio, and Alex Noren might be plays to consider for their price point. I mean, it looks like their value is pretty darn close to that. So definitely think about that. Let's see how often these guys finish inside the top 10, or how some of these guys finish inside the top 10. So Sergio has a very high mark of finishing inside the top 10. At $7,300, that's probably a good play. You know, not a lot of events for a lot of these guys up here. The light red indicates, you know, they're kind of lower pack, or at the end of the pack. Dark red means it's way at the bottom. So of the 3 events that Joaquin Niemann has played on Pete Dye Golf Course, one of them obviously finished inside the top 10. The other 2 he had not. So with that overall average position, like, this is what you should be looking at, as these 3 numbers combined. Not very good, but obviously has the opportunity to do well at Pete Dye. It's just turning out to not look the greatest. So really, you want to look at someone like a Brian Harmon, who has 32 Pete Dye events under his belt, 25% clip of finding the top 10. Average finishing spot at Pete Dye Golf Courses, not the greatest, 44.59. But at $7,200, like, that's pretty darn good value. Yeah, I would just take everything into account. So when you're looking at this, obviously, and same here, like, when we look at overall, you know, Pete Dye's results, take this into consideration. How often do they finish inside the top 10? And then also look at all the events that they've played in. Is it enough for you guys to make a determination? Do you like these guys? Rory, Sergio, Justin Rose, Jason Day, John Rahm, like, those look pretty darn good. We can look at overall Bermuda stats. So I would go ahead and open this actually back up. Get a couple more golfers in there. We have Christian Bezuidenhout at the top. He has an 18th place finish at one of the Bermuda courses that he played at. I would say, you know, this is not enough. Not enough events. One event is obviously not enough. That's a max of 4 rounds. Let's go ahead and just remove that. And now we're kind of stuck with a little bit bigger sample size when it comes to the golfers that have played on Bermuda. So DJ leads the way, 24.03. Rory next, 25.44. And you guys can see the rest of it. One guy that actually catches my eye here is Colin Morikawa. It's going to be interesting to see how well he does, considering that he missed a very short putt in the last tournament to basically extend the playoff that he was in. Usually having putting woes like that, seeing something, because he did not putt the ball well at all during that tournament, that stuff actually lingers. So that is more of a psychological thing that I think is more of a negative than it is a positive. I would definitely consider that at $10,000. Now I think Morikawa is probably a little too expensive. Yeah, you can look at the rest of these guys here. No one else really pops out. I mean, maybe Jordan Spieth, like that. These are good numbers for Pete Dye, top 10%, as well as Bermuda. We can go ahead and look at the 2020 Bermuda. We have Tyrrell Hatton at the top. He won the API. That was Bermuda. And then I really don't see a value play per se. Maybe you get back on someone like Ryan Palmer. Maybe not. Let's go ahead and hide all of this information and bring up the tee to green stats. I'm not okay. First of all, let's go ahead and talk about these golfers that do not have enough PGA events to have stats. Charles Schwartzel has played this tournament pretty well in the past. Yeah, let me go ahead and open that back up. I suppose what I want to do is just go ahead, hide most of this stuff, but also keep most of it open and actually bring back some of these guys that I had hidden. Also going to hide this just to make this all easier for you guys to look at. Okay. So Bezuidenhout here, 7,200. Obviously, Bermuda stats look pretty good. Not enough PGA events to have stats. Might be worth the play. I wouldn't consider it. I said Charles Schwartzel had good course history. Obviously, I was mistaken. 59.25 isn't bad, though. I wouldn't let that be a deterrent for picking him. Davis Love III. He's won this tournament before. but that was a while ago. I don't think I'm really gonna pick him. Eric Van Rooyen. I like him as a golfer. Like, he's very talented, but it's difficult to say with like overall Pete Dye stats and Bermuda. Like, we have nothing to see. Wesley Bryan has won this tournament before. I think he has a sponsorship, well, because he had won this tournament before, that's why he has an exemption into this tournament. And then the rest of them, I'm not gonna really go over. Victor Perez might be another golfer. We saw him at the top of the Bentgrass stats last week, but that was only because he played one event. He might be worth a look. Honestly, might be. Okay, let's go through this really quick. I'm going to let you guys take a look at this. I really have nothing to say when it comes to tee to green, off the tee, that kind of stuff. Pause it, screenshot it, take a look. Johnny Vegas was red hot last week for a couple rounds and then kind of cooled off on that Sunday round. But someone like him is gonna do something like that. He's very volatile. Matthew Wolff, 6,900, kind of getting down to the territory where, you know, his potential can far exceed that. So it might be worth looking into. I'm not very confident in it. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Here you go. Screenshot this. Take a look. Luke Donald shows up. That's really interesting. I'm probably not gonna put too much weight into it. Around the green. Again, I'm not putting a lot into it. This was a very bad stat that correlated in the 2019 DK page. Again, that's only 2019. Yeah, not something I care too much about. Putting, we saw that didn't matter at all at this tournament. But if I would say this, if I'm doing putting, I would then try to pair it up with like course history and Pete Dye stats. So do we see anything? Kuchar, obviously. JT Poston might be a good play. Poulter and Oosthuizen. Those aren't bad either. But I'd also kind of consider approach as well. And I don't see very good approach stats for any of these guys. So Ian Poulter maybe. But yeah, you figure it out on your own. See what you like the best. Green and reg. I mean, we're going to want to hit a lot of greens at this golf course. They're smaller greens, which will increase putting a little bit. I don't remember them being that undulating. So I would say if they're good in Bermuda, their approach, green and reg, is good. I think, you know, it's worth the play. But, you know, pick one to three golfers with that type of combination together. Don't go all in. Like, don't do 6 golfers that way. Like, it's never gonna work out for you. Let's see, proximity. I don't see. I mean, again, these greens are small, so the proximity numbers are just going to be better regardless. I don't know if it's really something to look at though. Birdie or better. Now, birdie or better is interesting because this course being as tight as it is, I don't know how many birdies are going to be made, but you definitely want golfers that have the ability to make birdies whenever possible. So, you know, picking, you know, 2 to 4 golfers out of this pile of top 20 is probably going to be important. So I would definitely consider that. Go ahead and hide this and get to the end of the spreadsheet here. Driving distance will be interesting to look at once the tournament concludes, but I'm definitely not going to put anything into it right now. Driving accuracy, this is probably something to consider. You see Brian Stewart, who's being talked up a bunch. Brennan Todd. Ryan Armour. I mean, the Pete Dye overall doesn't look good, but he's more of a Bermuda golfer. So I kind of like that with Ryan Armour. Of course, Furyk is up there. I mean, you get a lot of short hitters here to really consider. Like Ches Reavie, he hasn't really been doing that well, but maybe this is the tournament that we play him quite a bit. But yeah, look at it down here. Figure it out. Like, there might be some things to look at with driving accuracy. Good drive percentage. This is just their decisions to what they make off of the tee. So really, like, Furyk stands out a bunch. And at 7,100, that might not be a bad play. We've already seen a bunch of $7,000 golfers that seem to be pretty decent plays. So definitely consider that. Ryan Armour shows up. I mean, we already knew that because we saw his stat earlier. Let's see. If I were to highlight some of these golfers that have good course history, basically those that have good peak die history, and Bermuda, we really only see Webb Simpson show up. So maybe Webb is a good play. And his bogey avoidance, I think, leads the field. So him and Tyrrell Hatton, bogey avoidance. Again, maybe we look at course history overall. I mean, Webb Simpson might be like a Patrick Cantlay and Matt Kuchar of last year. Good course history, pretty solid in all the other stats. Maybe we pair him up with another, you know, near $9,000 golfer. This is really difficult because, like, you see, this is the fun thing too when you look at stats. So the dark green indicates their top 10% in this field. 86.97 isn't that far north of 82.47. Rory McIlroy, John Rahm's just above him, but like Rory McIlroy might hit 7 out of 8 drives, you know, where he would be 100% and that other one would be 0%. And that would get him to that 80% mark, or four drives and 1 bad one. So that's 5 out of the 4 80% work. So it'll actually bring his drive percentage down. But out of that one that he hit poorly, he can still scramble to make par. So like that's why some of these numbers are just not that big of a deal. I mean, I think if you want a conviction play and you need this proof to look at, that definitely take it. But that's what I'm saying, like bogey avoidance. Bogey avoidance with good drive percentage, like if it's a low good drive percentage, you can see how good of a golfer they are in the ability to like not actually get in that. So bogey avoidance maybe with like birdie or better percentage. I'm gonna have to re-hide all of this. Don't worry, don't mind me. But we can go ahead, just use birdie or better, and then obviously bogey avoidance. So like Rahm, Rory, JT, Bryson, Hatton, and Simpson. I mean, you can throw Woodland up there too. Like that's not bad. All of these golfers. I mean, Woodland, good drive percentage. That's because he likes to hit 3-wood off the tee a bunch. Definitely all those golfers I think are worth playing. So that's your 2020 RBC Heritage preview. I have nothing else to add to it. I will have a lineup construction video out on Wednesday. I'm thinking about changing my schedule to have the preview come out on Sundays. I like doing them on Mondays because DraftKings will come out with salaries. And since I still have a 9-to-5 job, it's difficult to get these out early. And I won't lie, I didn't prep for this video. I didn't actually put together all of the stats, all of the graphics and stuff like that until after work. So again, that's why this is coming out so late. But hopefully in the future, I will just be better at putting this stuff together. So I'm going to start putting in the video somewhere, you know, whether it's like up by the Twitter logo up there or the PayPal logo up there. I'm going to put something like what my schedule is going to be like for this. And then hopefully somewhere down the road, maybe I'll do like live videos. I'd love to do that and then have like, you know, viewer feedback, like a Q&A or anything like that. So if you've gotten this far, let me know in the comment section if that's something you'd like to do. I can either throw it on YouTube or Twitch. You guys can give me kind of whatever your preference is, and I'll definitely cater to it. But yeah, again, I'll have a schedule out sometime within the next week, just to kind of go over like when you can expect these videos, so it's not like waiting too long for them or anything like that. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Let me know. But yeah, thank you for watching. like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I will see you during the lineup construction video on Wednesday. All right, bye.